Well, ho ho ho, vinyl community. Welcome to VC Friday, and this will be the last VC Friday before Christmas. So everybody remember to observe all the vinyl community traditions for the holiday. Don't forget to leave a cup of espresso out for when Mazzy comes down the chimney and leaves you a Rycooter album. Now that's only if the coffee is good. If the coffee is not so good, he'll leave you 2 Rycooter albums. And I've already opened my first Christmas present, which is this lovely piece of original artwork by my friend Stephanie. So don't go on Discogs trying to figure out what that album is. You won't find it there. Thank you so much, Stephanie. I love it. I don't have any new albums to talk about this week, so I thought I'd just pull 3 semi-random albums, just random albums that I thought I'd be able to say some things about that I haven't shown before, and they don't have any theme or connection except that one of them is a Christmas-related album. So to begin with, it has been called the most hated album in jazz. Jazz musician Stan Getz called it worthless. Biographer Bill Connor called it an insult to the intellect of the people. Critic Lester Bangs called it the absolute worst album this man ever put out and a form of suicide, or at least an artistically perverse act of the highest order. It is the 1972 release by Miles Davis, On the Corner. This is a Music on Vinyl reissue. The copy I had back in the day was a later Columbia pressing that did not have a gatefold cover. We just had the front, which is this splendid artwork by Corky McCoy, great urban scene with various Miles references coded in there. And on the inside, which I didn't get on my old copy, some more cartoons with references to previous Miles albums, and a photo of the man himself. And what's not on here? Credits for the musicians. Miles, in his electric period, had been approaching this heavy electric funk direction for some years, and on this album it exploded into a form that no one really anticipated. Miles himself characterized it as Stockhausen plus funk plus Ornette Coleman. The sound is very dense, very urban, and it combines an urban American feel with African sounds and East Indian sounds, the latter courtesy of Colin Walcott's electric sitar and Badal Roy's tabla drums. Badal Roy is by no means the only drummer on here. He has a section of 4 percussionists. The tracks are basically 2 long sessions that were edited together into the form they appear on the album by Miles and Teo Macero. The first session gave us the long suite on side 1, which consists of the titles On the Corner, New York Girl, Thinkin' One Thing and Doin' Another, and Vote for Miles. It's really hard to tell when listening to the album where one of these ends and the next begins. It's all very continuous, even though it's been heavily cut and pasted and overdubbed in the studio. The remainder of side 1 is the very catchy Black Satin theme, which was even released as a single under the title Molester. That's from the second recording sessions, which continues on to side 2 with the tracks 1 and 1, Helen Butte, and Mr. Freedom X. The first session consisted of Miles accompanied by Dave Liebman on saxophone, 3 keyboardists, Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock, and Harold Ivory Williams, John McLaughlin on guitar, Colin Walcott on electric sitar, Michael Henderson on bass, and the percussionists, Jack DeJeanette on drums, Bedal Roy on tabla, and Billy Hart and Don Elias on various percussion. The second session from a few days later, these were both the first week of June 1972, had David Liebman replaced by Carlos Garnett on saxophone and Benny Maupin on bass clarinet. Chick Corea did not play, so the keyboards were just Herbie Hancock, and Harold Ivory Williams on piano and organ, respectively. And John McLaughlin was replaced by Dave Kramer on guitar. Otherwise, it was the same lineup with the hugely prominent percussion section, the dense, percolating jungle of percussion, the heavy electronics from everybody. Miles was playing his trumpet through a wah-wah pedal so that he just blended in with the electric ensemble. There was no feel of Miles playing lead solos, none of that typical muted trumpet that you might hear from Miles in his classic days when he really was singing over his accompanists. This is a dense and uniform jungle of sound. The funk grooves on this album are so deep, so adventurous, and so modern. There is speculation as to whether Miles had heard Funkadelic at this time, if he had been listening to, in particular, Maggot Brain. Certainly he had been listening to James Brown. Certainly he had been listening to Sly and the Family Stone. And certainly he had been listening to Jimi Hendrix. Composer and arranger Paul Buckmaster had some influence. He was there in the studio with Miles, and he turned Miles on to Stockhausen. So there was a story about how he got in the car in Miles's Lamborghini and found that Miles had a tape of the Stockhausen Gruppen and Mixtur album right there in the car to listen to while driving. So the electronics on this album are definitely very outside of the traditional use of electronics in jazz. So Miles was doing something very different and very hard for a lot of critics to accept. There's another story told by percussionist Mtume where after a concert at the Philharmonic Hall, which resulted in the in-concert album that followed after this with a matching Corky McCoy cover, a critic came up to Miles and said, "Miles, through all your changes, I've been right there with you, but this new music, I can't get to it." And Miles' response was, "What the fuck am I supposed to do, motherfucker? Wait for you to catch up?" On the Corner is often said to be Miles Davis's worst-selling album ever. I don't think that can be true. It did chart. It made number 156 in Billboard, which was actually fairly typical of his albums from this period. The next album is also a release from 1972, but that's about where its resemblance to On the Corner ends. This is the Incredible String Band and their 1972 album Liquid Acrobat as Regards the Air. This is a U.S. copy on the Elektra label. It was their last album for Elektra in the United States. In England, they had already switched from Elektra to Island. Island didn't really have a presence yet in the USA, so they stayed on Elektra for a while, and then after this one, they moved on to Warner Brothers. Gatefold album cover with lyrics inside, and the band here consists of the mainstays Robin Williamson and Mike Herron, plus Licorice McKechnie and new member Malcolm LeMaistre replacing Rose Simpson. And there they are on the back. An extremely eclectic collection of songs, very adventurous. There are a huge number of different instruments being played by the 4 musicians present, plus their guests. There are standard folk instruments like acoustic guitars and fiddles and mandolins. There are world music instruments like oud and sitar and bouzouki and biron. There are rock instruments. We've got electric guitars, bass and drums, electric organ, as well as pipe organ and church organ at various points. There are wacky instruments like spoons and kazoos and swanee whistles. So there are classical instruments like cellos and oboes. So a huge amount of instrumental color is available, and they really use it on the very first track. Talking of the End, one of Robin Williamson's compositions, just is a constantly changing, very progressive composition where Robin plays oud, violin, guitar, lead vocal, whistle, and cymbals. Mike Herron plays organ, sitar, and vocals. Licky plays harmonium, organ, vocals, and small hand drums. Malcolm plays harpsichord, vocals, and hand drums. And producer Stan Lee, alias Stan Schneer, plays pedal steel guitar. And that goes right into the second track, Dear Old Battlefield, which may be their first song on an incredible string band album where they are totally in a straightforward rock band format with 2 electric guitars, lead and rhythm, organ, bass, and drums. No sitars or fiddles or anything sort of wacky added to that.
Death is unreal, that's the way I feel. There's more to be revealed. Lovers and friends meet again and again on the dear old, on the dear old, on the dear old battlefield.
The third track, Cosmic Boy, is yet another real departure. It's just piano and vocal. The vocal is by Licorice, who has a very plaintive, little girl-like high soprano vocal sound, and Mike Herron's piano. Herron wrote the music and Licky wrote the lyrics. And the sound is kind of a cabaret piano art song piece. The core band of Robin Williamson and Mike Herron just play the next song, Worlds They Rise and Fall, as a duet. So that's kind of a callback to the earlier incredible string band of 5,000 Spirits and the Hangman's Beautiful Daughter. Evolution Rag is a vaudevillian piece that brings out those wacky instruments. And we get another rock song for Mike Herron's ballad Painted Chariot to end the side. Side 2 opens with some reggae, courtesy of Robin Williamson, on Adam and Eve. Mike Herron, another ballad, Red Hair, an acoustic piece basically done without Robin Williamson's participation. Then Robin does a kind of madrigal-like piece, Here Till Here Is There, with the band playing flutes and recorders to accompany the vocal duet between Robin's a cappella parts and Licorice's parts. Tree is the next song, which has massed vocals from Mike, Robin, and Licky. Actually, Mike isn't credited as Mike here. They're all listed by their first names only on the back, except for Mike Heron. He's Heron. There's a selection titled Jigs, featuring Robin Williamson's fiddle playing. And the odd thing about that is it opens with an original composition, which is sort of a rhapsodic thing, not a jig at all. Then we get a straight jig, Sunday is My Wedding Day, traditional, and another traditional jig, a slip jig, Drops of Whiskey, and a third traditional tune, Grumbling Old Men, which is actually a reel. And the album concludes with the wonderful and deeply moving epic piece, the 11-minute Darling Belle, kind of a folk rock opera set in the early 20th century. It begins with a sort of childhood portrait of the characters of Belle and James. They reconnect at a ball. They meet at a ball. They fall in love. There's a scene of them making love out under the willows. Then there's a scene of James going off to war. This is in World War I. There's a chorus of Keep the Home Fires Burning. The inevitable We Regret to Inform You telegram, and a final scene of Belle in her widowhood, being shuttled from relative to relative and reflecting on her life. Extremely sad and moving, but a very beautiful piece of music. Liquid Acrobat, as regards the air, was the last incredible string band album to ever trouble the American charts, which it just barely did, reaching number 189. In the UK, it reached number 46, but charted for only a single week.
Say it will not be.
Dancing as if with death or fate to the moonlight warmth of this silk-skin lake. Kissing you lifted my skirts under the willow tree.
And the last album for this week is this 1967 release on Nonesuch, The Play of Herod, a 12th century Christmas drama. This is an adaptation of a play with music found in the Fleury playbook, which has nothing to do with the Fleury football team. It's a collection of biblical dramas found in the Abbey of Saint-Benoît de Fleury, and it obviously tells the Christmas story. It begins with the Annunciation. This is the speech from the angel that we all know if we've watched we all know by heart if we've watched the Peanuts Christmas special enough. This is the Tidings of Great Joy speech. And then the shepherds all decide to go to Bethlehem to find the baby that has been prophesied. And then the three magi appear, and they decide to go seek the baby, and that's side one. That's the first scene. It's 15 minutes. Side two, 20 minutes. takes us to the court of Herod. And Herod sees the Magi passing by and says, hey, call those guys in here. I want to find what they're doing. And interrogates them, and they tell him that they are bringing the gifts for the new king who's been prophesied. And Herod says, oh, a new king, huh? What are you bringing him? They say, well, gold, which is for a king, and incense, which is for a god, and myrrh for a mortal, because he's all these things in one. And Herod says, oh, that sounds pretty special. I'll tell you what, you go find that guy, and then you come back and tell me where he is. And so the angel comes to the Magi while they're sleeping after this and says, go see the baby, but when you go back, don't go by Herod. Go a different way. And that's the story. Now, the music as printed in the, or inscribed, I should say, this is before printing, in the playbook itself is very skeletal. And there's an example on the cover here, unfortunately very badly reproduced, of how it appears. The musical neumes here on the staff and the text above with this is the introduction where the angel is making the announcement to the shepherds. So this was adapted for and arranged for this performance version by Charles Ravier, and it's set for mainly alternating instrumental and vocal passages. So on the vocal side, we have 7 voices spanning the range. There's soprano, mezzo-soprano, countertenor, 2 baritones, and bass. Of course, Herod, being the bad guy, is the bass singer because he's very bass as a character and in his morals. Instrumentally, it's a combination of ancient instruments and modern instruments. So on the woodwind side, we've got recorders and crumb horns, but also bass flute, English horn, and bassoon. On strings, we have a viola, but also a viola da gamba, which is the sort of fretted cello-like instrument from old times. 2 harps, also 2 performers on harpsichord and percussion, and a separate percussionist playing tambourine, because there's lots of tambourines setting the tempos. Now, according to Discogs, this appears to be a reissue of an album that was previously released in France on the Valois label, but there is no entry in Discogs for the Valois album itself, so I don't have a lot of information. There was another recording of this piece from around the same time in the 60s, an American recording that is a double LP on the Decca label, and that one goes on to tell more of the story. It tells the story of the slaughter of the innocents, but I think that must be from a different source, because as far as I can tell, the information I could get on this online was a bit sketchy, but as far as I can tell, this story is the complete play of Herod as it appears in the Fleury playbook. So that is VC Friday for this week. Merry Christmas to all. Also, Happy Hanukkah. It'll still be Hanukkah when this drops. And if you don't like either one of those, well, Happy Friday. So thanks everybody for watching. Be well. I will talk with you again soon. And don't forget to vote for Miles. Bye-bye for now.
So I'm